Well, hey, grandkids. We are just about ready for chapter 5 of Shiloh. But you know what? There were some really interesting things for chapter 4. Did you agree with that? If you were Marty and Shiloh had come back to your house a second time, what would you have done? I thought Marty made a promise to Judge Travers. I'm a little worried about Marty. Are you? And then at one point, Marty said, "I'm as tense as a cricket that night." He's tense, like a cricket. We call that a simile when we're studying the English language and writing. Why don't you ask your parents what they think it means to be as tense as a cricket? And then if you would like to do a little more drawing, why don't you take a sheet of paper and draw what you think Shiloh's new pen looks like, okay? And then once you're done with that, start the video up again and get ready for chapter 5. Here we go. I gotta take one problem at a time, I tell myself. Problem number 1, where to keep Shiloh hid. Solved. Problem number 2, would Shiloh be quiet? Yes, he would. Problem number 3, how am I going to get food out of the house enough to feed Shiloh twice a day without Ma noticing? The next morning before breakfast, as soon as Dad's gone, I take a biscuit from the kitchen and a rope from the shed outside and run up the far hill before Ma and Darlene and Becky get out of bed. This time, Shiloh's on his feet waiting for me, tail going like a windshield wiper. Fast speed. A soft yip of pure joy cuts off quick when I say, shh. But as soon as I'm in the pen, Shiloh's leaping almost shoulder high to lick my cheek. Nuzzling my hands and my thighs, he gulps down the biscuit I give him. Wants more, I can tell, but he doesn't bark. Seems to know he's safe only as long as he's quiet. I tie the rope to his collar. "Shiloh, we're going for a run," I tell him. To get in and out of Shiloh's pen, I gotta unfasten the piece of wire that holds the fencing against the trunk of the pine. Then move the fencing along enough to slip him out. Shiloh lets me go through first. He follows, and then we're both together, like a six-legged animal, pounding along up the path, legs bumping. Shiloh's leaping up to lick my hand. I let go of the rope and let him run free for a while. If he goes ahead even a few steps, he stops and looks back to see if I'm coming. If he stops to sniff at a tree or bush, I go on by. His feet pound double time to catch up. Just out of the woods on the other side of the hill, there's a meadow. I slump down in the grass to rest. Shiloh is all over me, licking my face sloppy wet. I giggle and roll over on my stomach, covering my head and neck with my arms. Shiloh whines and nudges his nose under my shoulder, working to roll me over. I laugh and turn on my back, pulling Shiloh down to my chest, and for a while we both lay there panting, enjoying the sunshine while longing to each other. "What'd you do today, Marty?" Dad asked as he gets out of his Jeep late that evening. "Well, looked for groundhogs up on the hill, fooled around," I tell him. "How's the can collecting coming?" "Found some a couple days ago." "Saw some bottles in the ditch down near Doc Murphy's," Dad says. "I'll go take a look," I tell him, and set out with my bag. I have to keep on collecting cans, enough to cover some money for meat and bones from the grocer down in Friendly. The bigger Shiloh grows, the more he'll eat. When I get back home, supper's on the table, and I slip into my chair just as Dad asks the blessing. "Dear Lord, we thank you for the food you've provided for our table. Bless it to nourish the good within us. Amen." Ma picks up the meatloaf and passes it around, and the meal begins. I eat about half of my supper, and then I say, "I've been getting sort of full feeling at dinner, Ma." And then I'm hungry again before before I go to bed. Ma don't even look up. Well, don't eat so much at dinner then, and eat again before bedtime. Food will be gone by then. Well, there's always cornflakes or something. But I'll get hungry for meat and potatoes later. Save some back then. Darlin'll eat it. For goodness sakes, Marty, says Mom. Who wants cold meatloaf, Darlin says. Forks continue clinking on the table. Becky keeps on digging her fork in her boiled potato. No one looks up, no one pauses, no one even questions. Easy as falling off a log. I get up from the table finally and put some of my meatloaf and half a potato on a saucer. I'm putting this in the fridge, darling, I say. Don't you go picking at it. I won't, I told you, she says. I go into the other room and sit down on the sofa. So far, so good. You seem restless, Marty, Mom calls. Me? Heck no, I got lots to do. Where's David Howard this summer? Haven't seen him around. Think he went to Tennessee to visit his uncle. Fred? Michael? Haven't seen Fred. Michael's gone to some kind of camp. You're not lonely? How can I be lonely with the whole outdoors to play in, I answer. Wish they'd get off my back. You can ride along to work with me again anytime you want, says Dad. I'll pick up the comic book I bought a few weeks back. I want to go. I'll let you know, I tell him. Gradually, the kitchen clatter dies down. Dad belches and goes out on the back porch to look at the sky, same as he always does. Becky's fooling with her food, and Ma sends her away from the table. Darlin giggles at Becky and gets asked to clear the dishes. I wait till everyone is out of the kitchen, sitting around on the back porch to catch the breeze. As usual, Becky and Darlin whoop and tumble around in the grass, glad for an audience. And after I sit a respectable amount of time, I say, think I'll take my .22 and go up far the hill a while. What you figuring on shooting this time of the evening, Dad asks. Just working on my aim, I tell him. See how good I can hit when the lights dim. Don't you ever, never aim your gun toward this house or yard, Ma says. I'll point it dead always, I promise. I go back inside for my gun, slip the leftover food from the saucer into a little plastic sack, and set off up the hill. The sounds of my sister's shouts and giggles behind me. Again, as I get near the pen, I hear soft, happy yips. But as soon as I say shh, the noise stops. The only sound you can hear is that of the swishing of Shiloh's tail hitting the fence, the soft pat of his paws as he leaps up in the air in sheer, pure happiness, the sloppy slap of his jowls together as he gobbles down the supper I brought him, and then he commences to slobber love all over me as well. I unhook the wire, push the fence open, and lead Shiloh to the stream for a drink, filling the pie pan with fresh water. When I lead him back to the pen, I can tell he's disappointed, wanted to go for a run. But I give him enough hugging and squeezing and petting to last the night, with the promise of another run through the meadow the next day. I'm halfway down the hill when I remember I haven't fired my gun once. Wonder if Dad will say anything. By the time I reach the back porch, though, the family's facing down the driveway, because there's the sound of a truck motor growing louder and louder. I stop in my tracks, fingers tightening around my gun. Dad, sitting on the edge of the porch, leans forward so he can see. Looks like Judd Travers' pickup, he says. My chest feels tight, like I'm having trouble breathing. The truck pulls up by the side of the house, and the door swings open. Evening, Dad calls out, as Judd, wearing his old Western-style boots with the sharp heel, gets out and comes over. Evening, he says. You had dinner, Ma asked. I got some leftovers I can heat up real quick. Had me some ribs already, he says. Ain't looking for a meal, Mrs. Preston. I'm looking for a dog. He sure don't waste any time getting to the point. Now my heart's really pounding. That new dog of yours run off again, Dad asked him. I swear to God, if I find him this time, I'm going to break his legs, Judd says and spits. Oh, come on, Judd. A dog with 4 broke legs ain't no good to you at all. He's no dog to me at all the way he keeps running off. It's the 4th time he's left the pack when I had him out hunting. I gotta teach him a lesson. Whoop him good and starve him lean. Wondered if you'd seen him. I sure didn't see him on my motor route today, and you know if I had, I'd have put him in the Jeep and brought him straight to you anyway, said Dad. What about that boy of yours? Think he's seen him? Dad had heard me coming back from the hill and turns around. Marty? I stand rooted to the ground at the side of the house. What? Come on around here. Judd's dog's missing again, and he wants to know if you've seen him. His dog? Here in this yard? Haven't seen any dog of any kind in our yard all day, I say, coming a few steps closer. Judd is sure studying me hard. So, his dad. Well, how about when you went out looking for bottles, Dad asked. You see him then? Nope. My voice is stronger now. Saw that big German Shepherd of Baker's, that dog that gets loose sometime, and saw a little old gray dog, but sure didn't see that beagle. Well, you keep an eye out sharp, Judd says, and if you see him, you throw a rope around him and drag him over. Here? I only look at him. I can't speak. I can't even nod my head. I would never promise that. You hear what he asked you, Marty, says Dad. I nod my head. Yes, I heard all right. Okay then, Judd says and gets back in his pickup. Have any luck hunting yesterday, Dad calls after him. A rabbit, saw a groundhog but didn't get it. That new dog hadn't run off, he would have got it for me. He wasn't such a good hunting dog, I would have shot it by now. Sheriff would get on you if you do something like that, Judd. The law never told me before what I could do with my dogs, and they won't be telling me now, Judd says. He laughs, waves his hand, starts the engine, and the pickup pulls away.